Hey, it's Jim Powell again. Just finished the Philosophy Bites podcast on Consequentialist. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's kind of difficult to say if you think about it. It's dealing with consequences, the moral philosophy in which you base your moral decisions based upon the consequences that would follow. And that's obviously versus the non-consequentialist who doesn't base their philosophy on what the consequences might be. They're saying there's more of an absolute moral decision that must be made. So it's a really good talk. Consequentialist seems to relate to utilitarianism, which is the moral philosophy on you do that which would bring about the greatest good or the greatest happiness. The guy who was presenting was arguing that, consequentialists, it can be defined not necessarily, a utilitarian view based more on than just what brings about the greatest good or the greatest happiness, but also based upon other virtues, such as which brings about the greatest integrity or that brings about the most respect, either to the individual, I guess, or the society, which seems really difficult because I don't even know how you would really clearly define what then does it mean to have integrity in a given situation, or what would yield the most respect to the person or persons in a scenario. So in order to kind of better explain what I mean by those and what he meant by those, is he gives different scenarios. Those are the general arguments against consequentialist views. The first one on the issue of integrity, and I love these philosophical questions because it really makes you think. What would you do? Okay, so the first one dealing with integrity, you're given a scenario where this guy, he kills. Back in the day, he just kills Indians every month. He kills 10 of them off to keep the population low. And you're thinking this is absolutely atrocious, because it is. And he said, well, since you're here and you're a guest in my land, I usually kill 10 of them. If you'll kill one of them, I'll let the other 9 go. What do you do? And he would argue that the consequentialist would say, well, there's no, you save 9 to the 1, so therefore you kill the 1. It doesn't matter. And that's the first objection, because the integrity issue, you're killing a person to save 9, but the fact is you're still killing a person. My argument, and the same would follow for all these other ones, is we assume a certainty in all these situations. We don't take into consideration the idea of hope. And as a Christian, I would say, you don't kill him because you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, yeah, there might be a 99% probability that he is going to be true to his word and he's going to kill 10 people. But I would say, it's to commit evil to reduce possible greater evil is to live without hope, in my opinion. And it has a lot of dire consequences, in my opinion, if you follow that moral philosophy. So that was the first scenario. The second scenario was the issue of respect. So you have a sheriff, he's in charge of a town. A murder takes place, and the people were absolutely irate about the murder, and so people are rioting. More people are losing their lives. People are losing land. They're just burning down buildings and stuff like that. You can think of this in terms of things that happened in Europe recently over the shooting of that one individual. And so it's the scenario is, well, the sheriff takes out a scapegoat. Just find somebody. It doesn't matter who necessarily. Someone preferably with someone with bad moral character that you could use as a scapegoat, and you get them tried, and then you get them executed to try to mitigate the consequences of the people rioting and that kind of thing. And of course, everybody would say that is absolutely, the non-consequentialists would say that's absolutely horrible. You don't, use another person as a scapegoat to, reduce the consequences. Now you can kind of see where the utilitarian view is kind of coming into play. Again, I would say to commit such an action is to commit an evil, to try in hopes that you would somehow mitigate a greater evil, but we don't even know the greater consequences. It assumes that we have perfect knowledge, which we never do, and so it's a life without hope. It's making decisions without faith. And this is where I would be interested to hear if there is a moral or a philosophical view that takes into the idea of faith or the absence of perfect knowledge. I would say this is why religion, and I would say specifically Christianity, that's what I am, this is why it exists, and how it relates to morals is because of the absence of perfect knowledge. We have to live by faith, and that in turn helps us make our moral judgments and our moral decisions. So, and lastly, he ends with another scenario, the more present, common scenario on the problem with torture. Should we allow people to be tortured? And that seems like absolutely no. That seems like a terrible idea that we would torture anybody. And then, of course, and he even agreed too that we should just ban torture altogether. But he did, see the fact that what about those scenarios where we know a person was withholding information? Again, you're assuming that we know, that we have somehow perfect knowledge, because we don't know. But we have a very high probability then that a person is withholding information, and that we should do whatever means we can in order to, let's say there's a bomb about to go off in a city, and this person has, they've been tied to it in some way, and they know where it is, and we know that they know where it is. How do we get that information out in time to save everybody? Do we resort to torturing them to get that information out? I would say no. I mean, again, you're living without hope that somehow the bomb doesn't go off. But then again, a rationalist would argue, well, there's a large, 99% probability it is going to go off and it's going to kill, hundreds, thousands, millions of people, all because we're not willing to break apart our virtues, or break down and deal with this situation. I thought, it does present, makes us think about what do we believe and why, which I really love. That's what I love about philosophy, and I love about Philosophy Bites. Kind of makes us think about our worldview, and how we base our decisions on our moral judgments. Last thing I'll leave you with, because I thought it was a great quote. It was talking about love, and he quoted Shakespeare, and saying, that there's a sonnet, and he didn't say from what play or from what book, but love is not love when it faces altercations, or it was something along those lines. Love is not love when it alters, when altercation it finds. I think it was the specific quote, which was good, because that actually, I would say, falls in line with an absolute love, which is, if you turn in Corinthians in the Bible, there's a great passage, and I'll post what it is and what it shares about what the Bible defines as love, which is, it's not dependent upon anything. It's unconditional love. So anyways, good final thoughts as I make my final arrival here in Atlanta and into work. Thanks. Bye.